Good afternoon, everybody. It is July 14th, 2020. So, I want to say really quick, kind of give you an idea of something I am working towards. All right. So, those of you that know me, I've been in the culinary industry a little over 18 years as a total. I've been a chef instructor for quite a few of those years, and that's probably one of the most rewarding jobs or careers, I should say, that I've had. In the course of my time teaching, I have taught adults who basically thought that they have no abilities, no skill set, or just a lack of confidence, to do things that was out of the realm of just their own imaginations. Now, during that time, I got to teach a very specific group of people. We were running a program where it was a recreational class for adults that were on the autism spectrum. Now, for a lot of people, they really don't understand what it means to be autistic. And probably, the simplest way for me to explain it is that as anybody else who doesn't have autism, you're able to go out into the public, into the world, and amongst all of the chaos and everything that's going on, you're able to kind of focus in and shut certain things off and go about your day. It really doesn't become overwhelming for you. But for those that have autism, it can be a little bit more difficult to navigate. Whether it be, basic things that we take for granted, like physical contact, eye contact, noises, sight, sound. It could be a lot of things, and that's why it's called the spectrum, because it is a sliding scale based off of each individual where they land on the spectrum, and not all of their key points are going to land in the same exact spot. Sometimes they'll be better with certain things than they are with others. So the program was basically geared towards sensory therapy for adults that also need to learn skill sets. And, for some of them, they end up having to move into a group home setting. Uh, Reason being is that whether they have family members that are incapable of taking care of them or no family at all, sometimes they have elderly family members that are unfortunately are no longer around, and these adults need a place to go. But in able to be within a group home setting, they have to have certain life skills. Part of those life skills are things that some of us don't even think about. Brushing your teeth, laundry, bathing, traveling. These are things that we do without even thinking about it. But, in order for them to be admittable into these settings, they need these life skills. And part of them is also cooking, and from what I've seen, cooking doesn't seem to hit a high priority. It's pretty much like, oh, if they can heat up a can of soup, then that's it. They can survive. And no, because there is a lot of health issues that come along with improper diet and nutrition. Not only that, but then we're also talking about opening up a set of people that may or may not have other medical factors, to improper food handling techniques, cross contamination, maybe, and it's really just, it's not that they're incapable of learning, is that some people are just incapable of teaching. That's the reality of it. As an instructor, I learned that you don't teach the way that you learn. You teach the way that your student learns. And each student is different. Each student is wonderful in their capabilities as well as their foibles, their downfalls. So what I'm trying to do is, what the goal is to be able to open a restaurant, first off and foremost, that has an attached greenhouse where our produce and our herbs and the predominant of what we use within the restaurant setting, we harvest and cultivate ourselves. The thought premise behind the restaurant is a place for everybody. And what I mean by that is that I would not limit my hiring practices to just the general public. I would actually seek to focus a little bit more on marginalized communities that are not given the attention that they need, that are not given the chances that they need. So what this means is that the deaf or hard of hearing community, adults with autism, people with Down syndrome, all of these things I want to incorporate into my business, the same way that I incorporate them into my family. You know, I have seen amazing work, and products being put out and by people who have no more malice in their hearts, people who have an undying loyalty and compassion and understanding. It's just they're never ever given a chance, okay? So the goal is that depending on where you land on the spectrum, depending on where you land as a human being, if you are the more boisterous person, if you love the general public, if you are the person that likes to deal with everyone, and you like to make friends, then guess what I want you to be in my front end. I want you to deal with the public. I want you to be a part of the beauty that is everyone else and then meeting people. But as the opposite end of the spectrum would be those that really don't do too well with everyday interaction. Still a place for them. I still got a plan. The plan is to give them a position where they're working within a greenhouse, where they're able to have peace of mind and solace, where they're able to focus their energies on something without having to deal with the populace, without having to deal with too many other people. And it's not just utilizing them, it's also bringing awareness to these adults, bringing awareness to their situations, and trying to get rid of the prejudice that they have not brought upon themselves, but the prejudice that we force upon them. I think that I was raised to believe high tide raises all boats, okay? Which means, if we're all being uplifted at the same time as a community, as a society, we are uplifting ourselves again. So, it's not just the key factor of getting these people to work and jobs. And the big thing about this, the really big thing about this is that people that have loyalty within the business, that are going to be with me, in the long run, they are going to earn credits. And what this credit earns them is an opportunity for them someday to open their own business under the same name and be an example, a shining example to others in their situation, others in their position. I mean, think about it. As a Latino, one of those things is that I've enjoyed and love is to be able to work under other Latinos and to see, people that not only look like me, but come from the same background. It's empowering, it's uplifting, it helps to melt away a lot of the chaos and sadness that exists within this world. You know, I tell my nieces every day, as often as I can anyway, and my nephew, that it is possible, but sometimes it's hard to prove that point when you're talking about a possibility and you see nobody that represents you. You see nothing that tells you otherwise. So what ends up happening is that those words fall on deaf ears, because after a while, the confidence gets struck down because you just don't have any proof. So let's give it to them. I would love to have somebody on the spectrum owning and running their own business, giving chances to people just like themselves. I would love the opportunity to utilize a marginalized group and give them not only a quality of life, but allow them to give it to themselves, to build themselves, to see more chefs on the rise, that are from different talented walks of life. I mean, just like the food that we cook, the people that handle that food should be varied, should be different, should be, with their own set of strengths and weaknesses that aren't holding them back, but empowering them. So this video pretty much is going to be the first video that I post on my YouTube channel, and I'll put the link. All right, feel free to share. But my YouTube channel is going to have everything from food to DIYs to, because I am eclectic. All right, those of you that know me know that there's not one kind of project that I'm not trying to put my hands on. Do, accomplish, build, it doesn't matter. If it's something that tweaks my interest, I'm going for it, But the goal that at the end of the day is to raise enough funds where I would be able to provide great food, amazing service, okay, to a community and an atmosphere where acceptance, compassion, love, and hard work are the only things that exist. Prejudice will not enter my front doors. And, just from my own personal experience, just to give you guys some insight, I've spoken to students of mine. Those that know me know what I'm about to say. And, part of the big thing of why I understand this community so much, at least from my end, is because they tend to become invisible to others. They tend to be forgotten, or for some people considered a burden, and that's just not the case. That actually shows me a lot more about where your head is at, for those of you that do believe this, and where your compassion lies, and speaks up more about your insecurities and inability to not just respect others, but respect yourself. For those of you that don't know, I spent quite a long time on the streets. I was homeless. Okay, not just homeless, but the couch surfing king of New York City. And it's not that I lacked loving family. It's just not everyone was in a position to help. And that's the reality of it. Not to mention that I was not in a mindset to accept certain things. And, I was with, my own issues, my own vices, my own discords that existed within myself. And it took a long time for me to work through it. And I found that culinary, cooking food and preparing things that not only were beautiful, but nourished people, and the most important, brought comfort and solace to them. I was able to recreate feelings of joy that I had throughout my life. My grandmother on my mother's side was a really, really, really big factor in why I got into food to begin with. Every bit of love and compassion was shown in the plates that she served. Now, granted, they were not 5-star, Michelin star plates. They were not, beautifully stacked. No, none of that. None of that. It was throw it in a plate, slop kind of stuff that was just amazing. And what called you was the smell that would waft out of this one apartment, and it would envelop the entire block and just leave people's mouths watering. And to this day, I recreate the recipes the way that she has shown me, and I am brought back. I'm brought back to a simpler time, a safer time. I'm brought back, and she's no longer around. Hasn't been around for quite some time, but she still exists. Like I tell my students, we lost a lot of things over the course of time. Whether you are Black or Latino, we've lost a lot of our history. We've lost a lot of who we are. Some of us can't even trace back our lineage too far back. But the one thing that has survived is our food history. Think about that. If it's something that's been in your family for some time, this is a gift that your ancestors, that your lineage has passed down to you, and it has stood the test of time regardless of what was taken from you. So why not continue to pass it down? Why not to continue to give it life? Why not continue to give it chances? Remember, we are only limited by our own imaginations. There are possibility within everything. Everything. So my goal is to bring those possibilities to light, to try to develop them and give people an opportunity, not just to help them, but to allow them to help themselves and others in their own situations, to allow for free thinking and an exchange of information and growth. And There's nothing I get more amped about than learning. I am a total nerd. You guys know it. But yeah, and if it means that, putting my personal stuff out on the line, then so be it. So be it. Because the reality of it is that if I never really paid attention to it, if I never really brought it to light, it was going to be something that would grow within me as an insecurity. And I am tired of being a slave to those insecurities. And I bet you guys are too. So let's try to do better. Okay. Listen, I'm going to be starting off a GoFundMe. Again, like I said, the purpose of this restaurant is to be able to teach, is to be able to give fantastic food to the masses, and to give opportunity for people in communities that are always overlooked, to give them control, skill sets, and life skills to in situations that they ordinarily would not be privy to. And I think that's wrong. I think we should let people decide for themselves on whether or not they can do something, instead of us telling what their capabilities are. Because just like in my kitchen, there's a space for everyone. There's a place for everyone. Every key point of the kitchen is important, and like I used to tell my guys out in the restaurant, everyone tends to forget that it's not the chef that makes the restaurant. It's not even the owners. It's not the wait staff. It's the ones we forget. The porters that keep our floors and tables clean, that keep the trash from piling up. Our dishwashers that keep all of our tools in top-notch condition to allow me as a chef do my job, to allow my guys out on the line the ability and the tools to do what they have to do day in and day out. We would be nothing without that one person, without the porter, without the dishwasher. Tell me, when was the last time you saw a chef, from a Michelin star restaurant tossing the trash out? You don't. Because we believe that once we get to a certain level, and I'm not just talking about chefs, I'm talking about people in general, once we get to a certain level, we're too good for that. That's not the case. What happens when those people are no longer available? What happens when that ability and those jobs are no longer being fulfilled? We tend to forget that a lot of times, there are positions and things that are being taken care of for us behind behind closed doors, and because we don't see it, it doesn't exist, or whatever the thought process is, and I'm not even going to go into explaining, because it's just foolishness. That's the reality. It's just foolishness. So do me a favor, if you can, share this video, share the links that I'm going to put down below. That is what the goal is. Eventually these people that work, under the umbrella of the company would earn credit, so that way they someday can then open up their own restaurant, their own franchise. I would love to be able to walk into a place that I started, but is not my location, but somebody else's, and walk in and see the boss, the owner, being someone on the spectrum. To see management and wait staff be people who are hard of hearing or deaf. Although, to be fair, a lot of the guys that worked for me in the past are hard of... No, I'm sorry. No, that's right. That's selective hearing. And you guys know who you are. But that being said, I am excited with this prospect of trying to do something that will change just our outlook as a whole, and to be able to allow more of us to give, more of us to work towards a common goal, which is uplifting us as a society. All right. So Thank you for the time, guys. You know, I gotta say thank you for every single thing that you've done. Like I said, this is gonna be video number 1 on my YouTube channel. I will download other things on, everything from DIYs to cooking. So if you have questions, if you have things that you're interested about, you know, I will do my best to do as much research as possible and provide you with the best answers. You know, yeah, and feel free to DM me, comment, like, post, repost, because the reality of it is that I am not going to be able to do it on my own. I am going to need the support of my community, of other communities, and with one single common goal, okay? To improve all of our quality of life best we can. So please take care of each other, be safe, all right? Allow for compassion and understanding to be your number 1 key, and not try to jump to conclusion or being hypersensitive about things. But at the end of it, at the end of all of this, I look forward to seeing, greeting, and hugging, and loving every single one of you. Thank you.